can detail that, but that will take some time. And then, of course, the president's going to have to make the final decision on that.
Let's talk about who pays for the higher tariffs on Chinese imports. Here's what President Trump had to say this week.
Our country can take in $120 billion a year in tariffs, paid for mostly by China, by the way, not by us. A lot of people try and steer it in a different direction. It's really ultimately it's paid for largely by China.
But Larry, that isn't true. It's not China that pays tariffs. It's the American importers, the American companies that pay what in effect is a tax increase and oftentimes passes it on to U.S. consumers.
Fair enough. In fact, both sides will pay. Both sides will pay in these things. And, of course, it depends.
If it's a tariff on goods coming into the country, the Chinese aren't paying.
No, but the Chinese will suffer GDP losses and so forth with respect to a diminishing export market and goods that they may need for their own
I understand that, but the president says China doesn't. China, it pays the tariffs. They may suffer consequences, but it's U.S. businesses and U.S. consumers who pay, correct?
Yes, to some extent. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Again, both sides will suffer on this. Look,
well, I want to pick up on both sides because let's look at one study that projects what the costs are of all U.S. tariffs. Look at the screen. This study found that all current tariffs cost an average family of four $767 a year and cut U.S. employment by more than 900,000 jobs. And the study found if the president were to impose that 25% tariff extended on all Chinese imports, including the $300 billion, plus the cost of Chinese retaliation, it'll cost an American family of four $2,200 a year, cut American employment by over 2 million jobs, and cut GDP growth by more than 1%.
Our work on this, CEA and NEC, think those are pretty wildly exaggerated numbers. I would suggest that if you go the whole boat, 200 billion increase from 10 to 25, plus the other 300 billion, we reckon it would be about 0.2% of GDP, so it's a very modest number. We have a $20 trillion GDP. In terms of possible job losses, we're way, way below that number. And I want to note here, the United States economy is in a boom. The numbers are coming in terrific, better than anybody expected on growth, on jobs, on unemployment, on wages, on productivity. We're in terrific shape. In order to correct 20 years plus of unfair trading practices with China, as I said, unlawful trading practices, I think this is a risk we should and can take without damaging our economy in any appreciable way. I will note, as others have, maybe this is part of your lightning round bullets, maybe the toughest burdens on the farmers, the agriculture sector. We get that. We've helped them before on lost exports. I think we had an authorization of $12 billion. We will do it again if we have to be, and if the numbers show that out.
That's my next question. Yeah. Are you reading upside down?
Well, I'm very good at it. I've had some experience. But we will do that. But again, in a rising economy, we're in a terrific prosperity cycle. Because of our policies of lower taxes and deregulation, and I might add trade reforms, we will be in very good shape. And by the way, something else the president has said, let me add this on. The tariffs themselves are producing a big increase in customs duties, big increase, perhaps something of a magnitude this past 12 months of maybe $25 billion. That will help finance farmers, and that will help ease the transition. You got to do what you got to do. We have had unfair trading practices all these years. And so, in my judgment, the economic consequences are so small, but the possible improvement in trade and exports and open markets for the United States, this is worthwhile doing.
Okay, the last thing I want to talk about, and I'm in no way questioning the wisdom of deciding to take on this. No question that has been an unequal, unfair relationship in trade between the U.S. and China. Last thing I want to get to is the question of how determined President Trump is to see this through, because he clearly had an expectation. If he got tough with China on tariffs, that basically they were going to cave and that there was going to be a deal and everything was going to be great, and he, as opposed to every other president, was going to reset the relationship. That is no longer so clear. And I guess my question is, how long is President Trump prepared to wage this trade war with China, which clearly has costs to the American economy and consumers and businesses?
Well, I don't know. I mean, can I substitute trade negotiation for trade war? I mean, after all, we're talking. We will talk some more.
I understand,
The
but we have
discussions,
tariffs on them. They have tariffs on us. We're
well,
threatening to vastly increase.
It's part of
It's not a negotiation. We're taking action.
It is a negotiation, and part of the negotiation is taking action. I mean,
Okay, but answer my question,
One
which
of the things I've learned,
which is how far.
One of the things I've learned, in fairness, one of the things I've learned under President Trump is that tariffs are part of negotiations, and they show that we do mean business, and we will take action. Chris, again, we have been on the wrong side.
Are you? How long is he prepared to continue this effort and then keep these tariffs on?
I wouldn't want to put a timetable on it. I would just say, as he has tweeted and has said to us and said to the Chinese, we're continuing our discussions. That's a very good thing. Negotiations, over time, stop, go. The speed may be fast or the speed may be slow. This is not at all unusual.
Are you suggesting, though, that there might be a certain point where he goes, this just isn't worth the economic cost and political cost, and pulls back?
I don't want to second guess that. I don't want to put timetables. That's completely up to the president.
But you're not ruling it out.
I think the economic costs are de minimis. The potential economic gains of a good deal that opens up China and makes them legal trading partners, those gains are huge. So that's a cost-benefit analysis that I really like. Politically, I think the country is completely behind the president and his tough approach to China. And in fact, as you know, leading Democrats such as Senator Schumer and others have supported the president in this battle. So I think sometimes you can do the right thing. And in a sense, this is a bipartisan policy, and it's long overdue. So let me repeat my point.
We don't have time for you to repeat.
It's worth doing. We have to change the trading relationship between the two countries for the benefit of the United States and its workforce and its ranchers and farmers and so forth. We have to do this. President's spot on.
Larry, thank you. Thanks for your time. I must say, I hope you enjoy our conversations.